Hello students, in the previous class we discussed about what is buyer behavior or consumer behavior and what are the types of consumer behavior. Today we are going to talk about the factors which can influence on consumer buying decision process. The consumer or buyer behavior is influenced by various factors and all these factors are divided into four main groups. The first one is cultural factors or cultural groups. Second one, social factors. Third one, personal factors. And the fourth one is psychological characteristics or psychological factors. So now let us understand how all these factors will have an influence on consumer behavior or buyer behavior. So the first one is cultural factors. Out of all factors, cultural factors play an important role in consumer decision making process because cultural factors exert the broadest and deepest influence on the buying behavior, and that is the reason marketers must understand the way people's culture is, its accompanying values, as well as their subculture, social class, which can have strong influence on buying behavior of the consumer. Now, what is culture and the values? Culture is the set of values, norms, attitudes, and other meaningful symbols that can shape human behavior and the artifacts or products of that behavior as they are transmitted from one generation to next generation is called as culture. And value is the enduring belief that a specific mode of conduct is personally or socially preferable to another mode of conduct is called as value. And both culture as well as value will have the strong influence on buying behavior of consumer. So what goods and services the consumer will be buying is depending upon the values and the culture they follow. The next one is subculture. A culture can be divided into subcultures on the basis of demographic characteristics, geographic regions, national and ethnic background of the customer, political beliefs, religious groups. So based on all these factors, culture will be divided into groups. Now, what is this subculture? Subculture is a homogeneous group of people who share elements of the overall culture as well as the cultural elements unique to their own group is called as what? Subculture. So that unique group may be a religious group or may be a group which can have a same political beliefs or the group which can have the same ethnic or national background, or maybe they will be belonging to some geographical area. So based on that the entire culture will be divided into group, and that each group is called as subculture, and this each subculture will have their own wants and demands, and so therefore this subculture also have an influence on the buying behavior. Next comes social class. A social class is a group of people who are considered nearly equal in status or community esteems and who regularly socializes among themselves both formally as well as informally, and who share the same behavioral norms. So these are the group of people who can share the same behavioral norms, or they will be meeting one or other way, oftenly formally as well as informally, and therefore these social class will have the same needs and wants about the particular goods and services. So each social class will have their unique needs and wants, and therefore we can say that even social class will have influence on the buyer behavior. The next main factor is social factors. Most of the time we know that we take opinions of others. Okay, the reason is why we need to take the opinions of others, because to avoid the uncertainty or to avoid the risk if the product is of very costly. Okay, and all like from where we take the where from whom whose we take the opinion, we take the opinion of reference groups, we take the opinion of opinion leaders. There are so many opinion leaders who can give the opinion about the goods and services, the family members. So from all these people we take the opinion, and all these people will comes under social factors, because most customers are, as I said, are likely to seek out opinions of others to reduce their search and evaluation efforts, okay, and also to avoid the uncertainty, especially if, as I said, if the risk is more. And therefore consumers may also seek out of others opinions for the guidance on new products, like at the time of purchasing of new products or services. Suppose in these consumers, they interact socially with reference groups, opinion leaders and family members to obtain the product information and decision approvals. So these social factors includes, as I said, the reference groups, opinion leaders and the family members. The first one is family members. The family is the most important social institution for many consumers, because the goods and services what consumer will be buying is depending upon the family from where they belong. Because family is responsible for the socialization process and also passing down of cultural values and norms to their children. So children will be influenced by their parents, that is by their family. And family members assume a variety of roles in the purchase process. Next one, reference group. So these are the group of people who give the reference or whose reference the consumer may take while purchasing the goods and services. The next one, opinion leaders. An opinion leader is the one who influences the opinions of others. Opinion leaders are often the first to try new products and services out of pure curiosity. So these are the group of people who have expert knowledge about the goods and services, because they try the first as soon as the product enter in the market, and they are typically self-indulgent, making them more likely to explore unproven and intriguing products and their services. So like especially when it comes to the electronic gadgets, you can find many opinion leaders. You can find many videos on YouTube regarding the usage of the electronic gadgets or the opinion about the electronic gadget based on their features, color, maybe the how to use the electronic gadgets, or how conveniently or economically which electronic gadget is best. So there are many, as I said, opinion leader who can give the information about the products, and based on their information you can purchase the goods and services. So when it comes to the electronic gadgets, this opinion leader will have a strong influence, because electronic gadgets we need to know how to use it, we need to know, because we need to know what are the features or characteristics, how the operating system of that electronic gadget is, because we spend a lot of money into it. So we take the expert opinion before we purchase the product. So these are the social factors which can influence on the buyer behavior. Next one is personal factors. A person's buying decision is also influenced by personal characteristics that are unique to each other, because these characteristics are unique to each individual, such as gender, age, life cycle stage, and the personality or the self concept on the life and the lifestyle of a consumer. So the first personal factor is general. Physiological differences between men and women result in a different needs, such as health products and the beauty products. We have different varieties of the beauty products, health products, or the clothing, when it comes to clothing, or there are so many other factors will be available based on different for men as well as women. Just as important are the distinct culture, social and economic roles played by the men and women, and the effects that these have on their decision making process. Okay, so how the different role will be played by men and women, the same way all these factors will have the influence on their buying behavior. The next personal factor is age and family life cycle. The age and family life cycle stage of a consumer can have a significant impact on the consumer behavior, because how old a consumer is generally indicates what products he or she may be interested in purchasing. Because consumer taste in food, in clothing, cars, furniture and recreation are often age related factors. Now for suppose example say the buying habit, the food habit of the teenagers will be different from the 70 age old consumer, because teenagers will prefer to purchase the junk foods or will prefer to consume the junk foods, whereas old age people will prefer for healthy products or healthy foods. So in this way there are so many products or so many goods and services which are based upon the based on the age of the consumer, they prefer those goods and services. The next one is personality of the consumer, the self concept of the consumer and the lifestyle will also have the influence on the consumer buying behavior. Now what is personality? Personality is a broad concept that can be thought of as a way of organizing and grouping how an individual typically reacts to the situations, and each personality will have the unique needs and wants. So as per the personality they belong, or as per they have the personality, they select what kind of goods and services they want to purchase. Next one is lifestyle. Lifestyle is a mode of living as identified by a person's activities, interests and the opinions, and based on the lifestyle we can see the lifestyle will have the influence on the buying behavior. Okay, every lifestyle will have their, as I said, different needs and wants of the products and services. And the next one is self concept or self perception. Self concept or self perception is how consumer perceives themselves, and self concept includes attitude, perception, beliefs and the self evaluations. Although self concept may change, the change is often gradual. No doubt, self concept may change, but this change is often gradual, and all these factors, personal factors, will have a strong influence on the buyer behavior. Buyer behavior will be changed as per the personal factor. And the last one is psychological factors. An individual's buying decisions are further influenced by psychological factors. The psychological factors includes perception, motivation, learning, beliefs and attitude. All these factors are what consumers use to interact with their world, and they are the tools consumers use to recognize their feelings, gather and analyze information, formulate thoughts and opinions, and to take the action. Okay, so these factors will have the influence on what consumer does. So the first comes motivations. A motive is a stimulated need that an individual seeks to satisfy. A need is must be aroused or stimulated before it becomes motive, and motivation can be defined as what leads the individual to act or behave in a particular way is called as motivation. Okay, and motivation will have the influence on the consumer behavior or buyer behavior. Buyer behavior is influenced by the motivation as well. The next one is perception. Perception is the process by which we select, organize and interpret these stimuli into a meaningful and coherent picture is called as perception. In essence, perception is how we see the world around us and how we recognize that we need some help in making a purchase decision. And selective exposure, it is a process whereby a consumer notices certain stimuli and ignores other stimuli. So they take into the consideration few stimuli and they take their purchase decision, and the stimuli which they don't want to include in their buying decision, they avoid those or they can ignore it. Okay. And next one is learning. Now what is learning? Learning is the process that can create changes in behavior through the experience and practice. Okay. It is not possible to observe learning directly, but we can infer when it has occurred by a person's action, and learning will have a strong influence on the buyer behavior. Now for example, say suppose you see an advertisement for a new and improved cold medicine, and immediately you can go to the store and you can purchase that medicine. Okay. If you go to the store that day and buy that remedy, we infer that you have learned something about the cold medicine, and that is the reason you have come to purchase that product. Same is the case. Suppose for example, if you watch the video on yoga, how yoga and meditation is important, immediately you take a decision of practicing yoga in your day-to-day life. So any learning happens in the person's life or the consumer's life, that learning will have an influence on their buying behavior. Okay. So all these are the psychological factors which can influence the buyer decision or the buyer behavior. Okay. In psychological factors or characteristics, we have motivation, perception and learning. Okay. I hope you understood how these 4 factors will have the influence on buyer behavior. Okay. Thank you.